Exclamation, everybody, and welcome to Deep Rock Galactic. It is by Ghost Ship Games and published by Coffee Stain Publishing. It is currently in early access on Steam for $24.99 US. And I'm doing something a little bit different this time around. I'm doing post-commentary because of the nature of the game, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But the basis of this game is you are a dwarf, and you can be one of these four classes. You can be a gunner, an engineer, a gunner, a driller, a miner kind of thing, or a scout. All of them have their strengths and weaknesses. The game is really meant to be played as co-op, and it's got online co-op and matchmaking, so you don't have to have IRL friends. You can kind of just jump into matches and do a quick join, or you can host, or as I'm going to do in this game, in this recording, just do solo. There's all kinds of different difficulty levels. I'm picking hazard level 1. There's a tourist version where you don't get any rewards, but you can do it just to kind of get a feel for the game, like kind of a in-practice tutorial sort of thing. And then it goes up from there to difficulty. There's a bunch of different maps. Each map has a different challenge per se, like some kind of environmental challenge you have to overcome. This one in particular has radiation, so you'll see me take some radiation damage here and there if I step into green areas. There's a lot of radioactive crystals around here. There's one that's kind of just a normal sort of sandstone-like area that's not too bad. There was one a map that I played that was basically lava rocks around you, and it was all, you're getting lava eruptions and stuff, which was really cool. Lots of like basically earthquakes and stuff going on. That was a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun little environmental things. Not too many different ones, but it's kind of neat to see what they've done and what they've gone for. I'll say that the art style of the game is really good. The music is phenomenal. The sound is phenomenal. But it's got a lot of just frustrating parts to it. One of them, you can see here, I'm digging through some dirt, and the dirt is supposed to show you where different caves, different caverns connect to one another. And you're supposed to basically seek them out because you have to get to a certain depth before you can finally, find the resources you're looking for. The goal is you're a dwarf, and you're a space dwarf at that, and you're trying to mine out a particular rock. In this case, it's Morkite is the rock. There's also usually a secondary quest. In my case here is to collect halonite, I believe. Those usually stand out. Sometimes it's to collect flowers, sometimes to collect resources. A lot of that kind of stands out from the background rather easily. You've got, in solo mode, you got this little droid here who can help you out. You can tell him to go mine stuff. The thing is, you gotta stand underneath him and collect all the things that fall down, because he doesn't collect anything, which I found out the hard way. It didn't really mention that. But he's also really particularly good at when you get attacked by enemies. He has basically unlimited ammo and will attack enemies for you. Which is good because your ammo is actually rather severely limited, even as the gunner here. It says I have 1,200 rounds, but basically those go really quickly. You can see here an example where he's the turret guy is helping out. The gunner here has his special ability is that he can fire off some of these grapple lines, so you can get up to other areas of the map just like that. The problem is everything about these grapple lines is janky. You can see I'm taking a lot of radiation damage here, so I'm going to eventually have to reverse and get off of this thing. There's a couple of problems here. One is that the grapple lines are very janky. Trying to get onto them and get off of them takes a little bit of effort. The other thing is, and this is what really makes them, I'd say, unusable, is that there's a certain angle at which you can actually fire the gun. You may have noticed it while I was aiming the gun, is that there's like a little sort of this is, I'll get back to that in a second here, because the video is now showing you there are every couple minutes you'll get attacked by a wave of enemies. This first wave here is not really that interesting to show, but I do cut forward a little bit in a little couple minutes here where we actually see to a much more interesting wave of enemies than this one here. So you get swarmed every couple minutes. It's kind of a way to get you keep on moving. Here's the more with the grapples here. Basically, I'm going to try to jump onto this ledge here, and I'm going to fail because I gotta mine out more of the ledge. Your grapples basically stay in midair as you're doing things. You basically have to mine out the area of the rock, because you can't fire them at anything but the shallowest of angles. As I was getting to, when you go to fire your grapple, there's like a little measurement on the side, and you can only fire when it's in the white and not in the red. It measures the angle at which you're trying to fire it, and the angle is so shallow on it that it becomes unusable basically in these maps. You have to use multiples, and they're very janky in their use. You can't easily move from one to the next. You have to kind of dig out an area, jump off of one, and then get onto the other one. And you can't fire a second one off unless your feet are touching the ground, so you kind of have to glitch yourself into a wall a little bit in order to fire another one off. It's almost, I would say, is nigh unusable in its current form. Now, again, this is early access, so it should, this is hopefully something that they can look at and actually make it worthwhile to have this in the game. But what I was just mining out there, what I was just having my droid mine out there, is the malachite, which is the main stuff that we have to gather. In solo mode, the resources are, you can see here is what I was talking about as far as the grapple gun goes. There's white numbers there, and then there's red, and it's very, very shallow. Like, I wanted to get over to that other side there, but first of all, I was out of ammo, and second of all, it's just nigh unusable. The gun is. So this next swarm is a more interesting one, so we'll let this one play out as I talk more about the game. But really, the game shines the most as a co-op game. So I'm really doing it a disservice by playing it in solo, but I really prefer the solo experience. That said, they seem to have tweaked it a little bit, where the game is kind of a little bit shorter than it was. When I was playing it the other day, it was taking me about an hour to get through a map, and now it's down to about 45 minutes. The number of resources, you used to have to collect like 320 resources, malachite, and it was just, you spend most of your time just trying to find it. The way the map generates is very odd. When you think about other games like this, like Minecraft, and say, when caves generate, they kind of generate in a way that you can you very rarely walk around in circles. These caves in this game seem to generate in just a circular formation constantly. It's just a bunch of circles that are joined by a little bit of dirt here. And the problem with that is that it means that you'll spend the majority of your time walking around in circles trying to find where the next patch of dirt is to go to the next area. The map is not very helpful in telling you where you've left resources. Now, I believe the map is upgradable as you gain experience, because you do gain levels and stuff, so I think that's something that you can get eventually. You'll get like an ore scanner and stuff, I think. But right out of the gate here, it's basically unusable. The map is, and I mean it's good for seeing how big the cavern is that you're in, but it's very hard to find where you've missed a patch of dirt and where you need to go for that. These red rocks here are actually health, so that's why I'm doing that, to get some health back, so you can see how that works. But the idea here is that you just gather up all your malachite, you come over to your little droid guy here, which you can call with C, and then he follows you around, and then you dump all your resources off there, and once you're done, you call for a drop pod, which is what I'm doing here. This is where the game gets, well, in my opinion, broken. It's, again, I'm soloing, so I'm waiting for the drop pod to come down. I see it on the map there. I see it's coming down way over there. I've tried to do this in such a way where I've gone, I've called the mule, as it's called, over to me, and I've gone all the way back to the beginning of the map, because I figured, oh, well, you know, the drop pod will probably come back right where I was, where it left me off in the first place. And I've done that on other maps where I've gone all the way back to the beginning and tried to do that, and it would just spawn the drop pod completely over the other side of the map. So it seemed like there was no way to really kind of get to a point where you can get to your drop pod easily. In fact, on that map where it spawned all the way on the opposite side of me after I walked all the way back to the beginning, it actually spawned, it seemed to spawn in solid rock, because what you're supposed to be able to do is follow the mule. The mule will actually, once the drop pod lands, it will call back the mule, and the mule will leave little, like a little breadcrumb trail of you know, beacons behind it, so you can follow the mule and follow the path that it takes back to the drop pod. The problem is that the mule can climb on walls and you can't. And in addition to that, here's a lot of the jankiness with the like, I want to get onto that other you know, thing there, but it's not letting me, so I'm just constantly getting stuck on this thing. But so the mule will find its way back easily, but then I had a problem where when I was following it in another map, it actually went and walked, it glitched itself into a wall and just left the map, basically, and went back to the drop pod by just going right through the wall. And so that left me with no recourse as to how to get back to my drop pod. In this map, you'll see that I end up just giving up, because you get to a point where you just cannot progress in any kind of fashion and make it back to your drop pod. Like, you can try digging through the walls and stuff, and as you're, you know, obviously as you're getting back to your drop pod here, you're getting attacked by enemies. But you can try digging through the rock, but it just ends up being, it takes too much time, A, and B, you can't dig in such a way that it would make a difference. Like, you can't really dig straight up or anything like that and get to a point where you could stair step your way up like you would like in a Minecraft or something like that. You just can't really do it here. And so in particular with the solo maps like this, I have yet to ever make it back to the drop pod in one piece, or actually to get back to drop pod at all. You can see here more jankiness with trying to get off these wires here. So that becomes incredibly frustrating. You do get some XP, and you'll see that when we finish here. Even though you didn't get to the drop pod, they will give you a little bit. But it's not as much as you would have gotten had you made it back, obviously. And it's still incredibly frustrating when you go all this way. You spend 45 minutes. Literally, this run through here, with all the editing that I've done, this run was actually 45 minutes unedited, and it's it's extremely frustrating when you get all the way to the end, you've done all this stuff, and the game is just not balanced in a way that you can actually get out of it. It seems like it's more balanced for co-op than it is for single player, at least for Gunner. Now maybe if I played a different class, maybe I'd have better luck. I don't know, but at least this guy is not good for a solo run at all. So that's kind of depressing. I wish they kind of would give you something here. Like, you've got this little turret guy that helps you out, and I feel like they could get rid of these. You know, in solo mode, I feel like you should be able to tell him to just pick you up and drop you onto an upper ledge. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's necessary when you don't have another player to help you get to where you're going. It seems like it's only fair that you could be able to tell this drone to, hey, pick me up and put me up on top of that ridge up there or something. So hopefully that's something they'll look at as they're going here, as they're going through their early access. But the reason I didn't show you this full run is because the game is incredibly fun to play, but really boring to watch. Really, really boring to watch. It might be a little bit more fun to watch in the co-op modes, but in single player solo mode, it's very boring to watch. It's much more fun to play, and it has some Mixer integration. So, you know, if you're streaming on Mixer, people can make the game harder, make it easier, based on buttons that will show up under your stream and stuff like that. That works okay. It's nice in that regard. But otherwise, it is a very fun game. Even in this state, it's just, there's a little bit more needed, I think, to kind of take it across the finish line. There's a couple little jankiness things with the solo mode. I really, honestly, if you want to play this, I would say do it with the idea that you're going to co-op it, because solo right now is not as much fun, I think, as it probably could be. I think there's a lot more tweaking they're going to need to do with that. But anyway, my friends, this has been Deep Rock Galactic. It is by Ghost Ship Games and published by Coffee Stain Publishing. It is in early access on Steam currently for $24.99 US. As always, I will leave links down in the description so you can do your own due diligence. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and I will see you next time.